I hate soldering. The reason I hate soldering is I'm no good at it. It's a skill like any other in that to get really good at it, you have to do a bunch of it. I only do it when I'm swapping pickups, which I do a few times a year at most. Soldering is dangerous because you've got a hot pen tool that you might, or in my case definitely will, injure yourself with. You can easily damage your guitar with it by melting the finish or frying components. And then it's just difficult. Okay, so making one joint isn't that hard, but if you're rewiring a Les Paul from scratch, for instance, that's 24 joints, and they all need to be clean and solid, which my solder joints rarely are. My point is that if you give me an opportunity to modify my guitars without having to do any soldering, I am 100% on board. Recently, we looked at this solderless Jimmy Page wiring kit by SixStringSupplies. It's a complete wiring system for a Les Paul that you can install with no soldering and change out your pickups as many times as you want with no soldering. Look how easy it is to install and deinstall these pickups, in this case the Seymour Duncan pearly gates in my 2001 Les Paul Standard. You just push down on these tabs and slide the bare wire in or out. Any idiot can do it. Even if you're a wiring hotshot, this is still a quicker and easier way to install your wiring and pickups. And because all 4 pots are push-pull, you have access to 21 different pickup configurations. I'm going to be giving this set away to one of you guys at the end of the video, so make sure to stick around for that. But let's say you don't have a solderless wiring kit, and you're as hopeless at soldering as I am, or maybe you just don't have a soldering iron, but you still want to change out your pickups. This is an Epiphone 1958 Korina reissue Explorer from 2008. It's exactly the kind of guitar I'd recommend to anyone who wants an affordable guitar they can turn into a really nice guitar for not very much money. They don't cost a lot to buy used, they're really well made, and they come with great hardware. The changes I've made from stock are to relocate the strap button to the heel so the guitar balances better, and I've used shallow strap locks so it stays on the strap. I've taken the gold plating off the hardware because I prefer the chrome look, and I've changed the stock white pickguard to black. I had also originally swapped in a set of 1959 PAF replica humbuckers from the Creamery, because the stock Epiphone pickups sounded like stock Epiphone pickups. That's not intended to be just some lazy criticism, by the way. Stock Epiphone pickups are fine. They work, they sound like humbuckers, they get you there. Other pickups out there that have more clarity, a better dynamic, a more complex mid-range, area highs, and a tighter bass? Yes. Should you upgrade? Only if you want to. If the pickups you have are working for you, don't let some guy on YouTube convince you that you need to invest in something only theoretically better. Case in point, the Creamerys turned out to not be right for the Explorer. I'll explain why shortly. Anyway, here's a tip. If you don't want to sacrifice a set of strings every time you work on a guitar and you have a guitar with a tunematic bridge, you can slack off the strings and back out the tailpiece posts and then wrap the strings up so you don't have to take them off the tuners. If you keep your posts lubricated, this will be easy to do. I use Monty's instrument food, which is kind of a multi-purpose wax. Just wipe some all over the threads before you screw them in, and when you come to loosen them again, they'll slide right out. Another technique I use that will make pro luthiers clutch their pearls in horror is how I installed the Creamery pickups in the Explorer. Long story short, I cut off the stock pickups, leaving plenty of wire on the guitar. Then I just twisted the conductors together and taped them off. I use painter's tape for this because I find the adhesive on electrical tape kind of melts over time and leaves a sticky residue. Painter's tape works just fine. I'm sure there's a reason I shouldn't do this, and I'm sure someone will tell me what it is in the comments, but I do it all the time and I've never had an issue. The only downside I can see is that it doesn't leave much of a tail on the stock pickups, but it'll be pretty easy to graft some more wire on there if I ever need to. You've probably figured out by now that we're swapping the Creamerys from the Explorer into the Les Paul and the Seymour Duncans from the Les Paul into the Explorer. And you might ask, fairly, what's the point of replacing one set of PAF style pickups with another? I'm gonna skim over this because it could be its own very long video, but the term PAF as applied to modern pickups gets thrown around a lot, including by me. First of all, the original PAF pickups were not all the same. There was a tremendous amount of variation and tolerance in their manufacture, so one set of PAFs might sound and behave completely differently from another. As far as modern pickups are concerned, let's say there's a spectrum, with at one end pickups like the Creamerys, which are faithful replicas of a specific type of PAF, and that are physically and therefore sonically very similar. And then at the other end of the spectrum, pickups like the Seymour Duncan pearly gates, which deliver the general tonal characteristics of a PAF pickup, but are otherwise modern pickups with features like coil splitting and wax potting. Wax potting is key here because in high volume and or high gain scenarios, wax prevents the pickup from feeding back. I don't mean that cool melodic sustaining feedback that guys like Slash have made a key part of their sound. I mean a kind of that comes from the pickup itself vibrating internally when it catches a resonant frequency. Like original PAFs, the Creamerys are not wax-potted, which makes them unsuitable for use in the down-tuned, high-gain, heavy metal live project that I got the Explorer for, which I thought might be the case, but I wanted to give it a try anyway. The Les Paul, on the other hand, is a guitar that I'd earmarked for use in my own rootsy Americana, AOR, dad rock studio projects that still use distorted guitar tones, but at much lower gain and volume, and so it's an ideal candidate for the more open and detailed tones that you get with a good PAF-style pickup that isn't wax-potted. But the Creamerys are two-conductor pickups like original PAFs were, which means that they don't work with the Jimmy Page wiring kit that was in the Les Paul. Enter the Monty's Guitars 50s Les Paul wiring harness. Monty's are a British boutique business that make pickups, a whole variety of these pre-wired guitar harnesses, and a number of other items and accessories, including the instrument food I mentioned earlier. They also make this Monty Presso, which is an amazing relic wax that I use to darken the fretboards on the Les Paul and the Explorer, and which you can use to darken any unfinished open-grain wood. Links to Monty's products and all the other products mentioned in this video are in the description. The Monty's Loom does require a little bit of soldering, but nothing like the amount I'd need to do to completely rewire the guitar myself. Beyond the obvious high quality of the components used here, which are worth the cost of the harness on their own, the appeal of these kits for me is that they've been prefabricated by professionals, which saves me having to do it. The Monty's kit comes on this layout card that shows you very clear instructions, and the cables are labeled in the same way. Despite Monty's best efforts, I still found a way to botch this, because when I saw that a couple of the wires were too short to install out of the guitar, I installed the harness first and did all the soldering inside the cavity, where I still could have installed the wires that were long enough out of the guitar first. I still managed it, but I made it way harder for myself than it needed to be. I only had to make 9 connections, but believe me, that was enough to make me wish I'd just sent the whole thing to the Monty's workshop. Taping the Seymour Duncans into the Explorer was obviously way easier. I'm not going to give you a tutorial on this part, but it's easy to install a 4-cable pickup into a 2-cable system. You just twist and tape off the conductors you don't need. So I hope I've reassured you, if you're at all intimidated by switching out your pickups, that you don't need to be a wiring expert or own specialist tools. The taping method requires only a few ordinary items and no soldering at all. The Solderless wiring kit obviously doesn't require any soldering, and the Monty's wiring kit, although it does require some soldering, it's little enough that even I could make it work. And to prove that I did make it work, as promised, I'm giving away this Solderless Jimmy Page wiring kit in association with SixStringSupplies. If you want to hear all the sounds you can get with this, check the link to the video demonstration in the description. The kit comes pre-wired with the output jack. It also comes with the required 4-cable 3-way toggle switch, and it has a street value of £175. To enter, you need to be subscribed to my YouTube channel, you need to follow me on Instagram and on Facebook, you need to leave a like on this video, and finally, you need to leave a comment below explaining what you would do with Jimmy Page wiring kit if you were to win it. If you're one of my patrons on Patreon, you don't need to do any of that because you'll be entered into the giveaway automatically. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and you want to see more, please consider becoming a patron. It really is the best and most direct way to support independent creatives like me. All the relevant links are in the description, and please read the full T's and C's. I won't be contacting anyone directly about this giveaway before the closing date, so please watch out for scammers. Entries close at midnight GMT on Thursday the 30th of March 2023, and I'll announce the winner in a live stream at 6 PM GMT on Friday the 31st of March 2023. Big thanks again to SixStringSupplies for supplying the Solderless Jimmy Page wiring kit. Thanks also to Monty's for the 50s wiring harness, for the instrument food, for the Monty Presso, and for all the other cool stuff they've sent me. Thanks also to Seymour, Duncan, and Rossetti for supplying the Pearly Gates humbucker set. And finally, thanks as always to you guys for watching. Best of luck in the giveaway, and I will see you next time.